Hi. Hi, everybody. My name's Victoria Reese, and I'm here with Tabitha Nikolai, and we're going to talk about Jubilee Zinevella, which is a project I've been working on for the past few years, and it's centered on a story which is about a quest to a future fictional version of Burning Man in 2020. It was the future when I started writing it. Now it's not anymore, but I wrote the story, made customized copies, and shared them with artists and friends I respect and admire, Tabitha being one of them. She also contributed some ideas and objects to subsequent versions, and I'm really happy to be here talking with you, Tabby.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here too. Thanks for taking the time.
Yeah. Do you want to introduce yourself a little bit?
I would love that. Yeah, my name is Tabitha Nikolai. I'm a visual artist based in Portland, Oregon. I do kind of new media work, mostly kind of new media installation, a lot of stuff that are sort of like video games, but maybe not video games themselves, with a sort of correspondence between what exists in these like virtual worlds and what exists physically in the installation space. Often collaboratively. What else do I do? I teach at Portland State University and other odds and ends, but that's the better part of it, probably.
Nice.
Yeah.
And how's your day? How are you? What's your current situation right now?
My current situation, gearing up to start teaching at the end of the month, but also trying to I'm like such an inside cat. I'm trying to learn to be more outside. So I went for a day over the weekend with some friends to the Sandy River, which is not something I've ever done. So, and just like, which part? Wow, you would ask a question like that at a time like this. I can't even begin to answer it. It was a spot that they knew. Damn. Oh, okay. So maybe you'll know this because you're an Oregon person deeply. I get the sense. There was like a sundae, like an ice cream sundae hamburger stand there called the Sugar Pine.
Okay, yeah, me and you were there today. It's Glen Otto Park.
There you go. We were kind of down from that, you know, through those winding paths. And then we forded the stream and we were by this. There's like a fancy house on the hill that had all this bamboo, weirdly, like huge, conspicuous stand of bamboo, and we were kind of posted up under that. So if you want to get really granular, that's where we were.
Thank you. I can see it. Yes, we were a little bit downstream from that today, watching the smoke roll in.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's, what is it? September 8th?
7th today.
7th today, 6:04 p.m. It's a Monday. It's Labor Day. And and it's, crazy like windstorm, fire smoke, dystopic, frantic weather.
Feels portentous, feels strange.
Yes, you know, and I'm personally like to that point where it's just like any new stressor becomes pretty like Armageddon. Like, is that the fourth horseman? Is this the fourth horseman?
Do we have a dozen horsemen now? Like, what's the...
yeah, what are we up to?
Yeah.
Probably pretty close. Do you want to talk a little bit about how you and I know each other?
Yeah. I think I told you this over email, so you're going to correct me if I'm wrong. I have like a pathologically bad memory. I have like huge swaths of forgetfulness. But what I remember is that I was running a venue, an art gallery venue, Project Space at the time with my then partner collaborator, Hannah Piper Burns, called Compliance Division. And either maybe you initiated the collaboration, or rather Homeschool maybe initiated the collaboration, reached out to us for space, or maybe we did you, I don't really remember, to do, you did some classes, if I recall, and then maybe after that, group show?
I think it was Sean Carney actually gave me your contact information. He was my teacher at PHQFU, and when Manny and I were starting homeschool, it was a pop-up art school, and we needed host spaces in which to hold our classes and talks. And so I know I reached out to you guys, and this is before we had done anything at all. This was kind of our initial homeschool's initial beginnings. And so there's a lot of non-responses we got from spaces that we reached out to, but you reached out really soon after, and you were like, not only can we host your class, I think it was supposed to be it was Rosemary Curtin's talk. And I think it was Rosemary Curtin. It might have been supposed to be Jessie Darling's talk, which ended up being Damien's talk. But you were like, not only can we host that talk, but we'd like to host you guys for the entire month of May. And we'd like to, if you'd like to have a show, if you have other things that you want to do there, we'd be happy to have you. And that felt really good to me. And your space felt really good too. Missed that little spot. But yeah, so we kind of dove right in to connective interactions, You're one of my first new friends moving back to Portland or Portland area. So
yeah, I don't think I knew you were just coming back at that point. So that's interesting to know in hindsight. And I feel like we had met, and then I'd seen you around the scene, and stuff after that. And then the point that I remember really getting to know you was, or at least the point that stands out the most, is when Elvia Wilk came and did her book tour for her novel Oval, and y'all had me talk to her then, but we drove out, you and I and she, to Conduit, a space in, I don't know, Eastern Portland, and we did like a Happy Valley, and it was like a costume making workshop out on the lawn in the hot sun, and it was a delightful and strange way to get to know each other more.
Yeah, that was really good, and we bonded over our love for Ultra Demon.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. Really.
Good times.
It's a small dang world sometimes.
It really is, and nested worlds, you know what I mean? Like there's just like worlds within worlds. Something about you and your work that appeals to me is just building little mysteries, as Sarah McLachlan would say.
Yeah, I have some thoughts about that too when we maybe get into talking about the story. I don't know if it's premature or you have an order of operations, but the way you write,
I guess I'm not concerned particularly with maintaining a plan or whatever. I can go in any direction, so feel free to interrupt or divert at any point.
Like there's a way that you write the story that really resonated with me, which maybe is part of what you're alluding to, where you have these, see if I can mentally capture it. You just congeal all of these brand and really juicy material signifiers, and you kind of do that. You make this heap of I don't know, perverse capitalism or something, and then it's juxtaposed next to, I don't know, the horrors of the moment politically based on when it's set. And it's what am I trying to say? What am I trying to ask? I guess, what is that something you see? Is that a way that you work when you're combining all these referentialities? And what's the juxtaposition with the horror for you?
Yeah. I guess my goal in the story, or I guess it springs from this impulse to consider like it's very escapist, you know, like for me, like writing the story was a form of actually like going to this place. So I was kind of trying to like write a world that felt both like familiar and was like full of things that mean something to me, but also could potentially mean something to other people. So like there's like celebrities that inhabit the story, and kind of, yeah, like from things that seem like they could be familiar to like readers. And then, but yeah, like I guess like part of the attention of the story is like how different from reality can it be without, while still like bringing true, or like having like tethers or like connections to now, like, and kind of trying to play with that, like how much can I make up, but then like how much do I have to be here to like kind of maintain that tension. But yeah, it's about kind of like trying to like take struggles I have now and that I see around me, and kind of like write an escape route out of them, kind of, I guess. So, but I don't have like a formal process really. I just kind of like take like whatever, like half hour after me my daughter went to sleep, and then before I went to sleep, and I was just like, go. And sometimes I was tired, and sometimes I was kind of tipsy. Like it's weird. I did not edit a lot in terms of like cutting it.
Totally. Like, and I mean, I think that's part of what I like about it is these like stacked vignettes on vignettes on vignettes that does like feel very psychedelic in form as well as the content of the thing. And in terms of like, I don't know, it almost, to me, it feels like too real in a way when you're writing about what are Elon Musk and Grimes doing next, and is Trump going to come talk at Burning Man, like those kinds of things. It's almost like we were saying, you know, which horseman of the apocalypse is this? Like, it feels like, oh, nothing, like you can't, like we've kind of been outdone by the psychedelic horror of reality. Like,
I know.
Yeah, where is the escape? And it's like I'd read it when you initially gave it to me, like a couple of years ago or a year ago or whatever. And then I started rereading it today, and I got about halfway through it. And then I looked to see, like, because one of your questions, part of your question was like, pick a random sentence. I'm like, oh, I want to pick a sentence from like the end of the physical copy that I have, because that's more towards the end, which I haven't reread in this iteration. And I'm getting all like lost in the labyrinth of it. But then I saw it was like, that was pretty much half of the actual thing. So it seems like most of the writing in the subsequent draft is like after that. Is that true?
Yeah, well, I went through and like kind of tightens like the beginning up a little bit. Like there was some things that didn't exactly hang right on the hanger in the way that I wanted to, and there's some like some of the repetition I kind of addressed a little bit, and like kind of thought about like how much I wanted to say the same thing over and over again. And yeah, so there I did work through the beginning a little bit. I didn't take away too much, but I did add more, and like kind of I moved a few things around. But yeah, most of the content and the like most of it happened, but like, so I'll tell the viewer or whatever. So I've made like 3 editions of this story. The first one was printed in August 2018 while I was at the art farm in Nebraska. I put out a second edition in February of this year. And then the third one, I finished the story on May 18th. At least that's what the Google Doc says, like last Friday, May 18th. And then it took a while, especially given the constraints of our current moment. Like I finally published and customized the third edition of the story and then distributing it now. I've sent out about half of the copies. But yeah, so they're different editions. My friend Elizabeth said I should call them uniques because each edition is different than the next. It includes more of the story. And so, yeah, this last edition of the story is 122 pages long, 123 pages long. And the first one was more like, 69 or 70 something?
Yeah, 70, something like that.
So, yeah, most of what's changed is more story.
Yeah.
Going
well, then that's good incentive for me to go ahead and finish it because maybe the escape hatch is there where it wasn't in the version that I'd originally read.
Yeah, it definitely moves more. It's definitely not a hero's journey. But
that makes sense. Yeah. I was thinking how much it, like, both in like the psychedelia and a lot of the characters, at least that I've met in my read through, where it feels like almost like Philip K. Dick, like where like the thing that I don't like, or I don't know, just a thing that is about that person's writing is like no one feels likable. So it makes sense that it's not a hero's journey in the sense that it's not like this redemption story, or like maybe there's a desire for redemption so badly that you actually can't have it. I don't know.
Yeah. There's definitely a lot of complexity. I tried to. I don't know. Do you have your physical copy with you?
I do. It's off to my side. Do you want me to show it? Or is it like secret?
Yeah.
Okay. It's here. It has a very cool strap with beads.
Do you want to describe it as if to someone who can't see it?
I would love to do that. I would say it's the size of a small sort of book, probably 10 inches tall by maybe 8 inches wide, something in that size-wise dimensions. And then it is covered in a piece of a denim pant leg, like a thin denim, with various beads top stitched kind of onto it. They're very tactile triangular beads that are orange and like fluorescent yellow with like an iridescent coating on them. There are these like rosettes or little flowers of a similar blue color that are stitched on. There is inside, there's a paper zine, like a, I don't know what you call it. I'm not a publishing person. Like an 8.5 by 11 folded and staple bound and then threaded through some sort of metal binding device. And then it has almost like a purse strap on it that is like a heavy duty steel cable that is then wrapped with some kind of thin coiled plasticky wire with beads, pony beads, a skull bead. Mine has letters that spell out the words aqua socks. You're not going to be able to read it, or I won't be able to orient it to the camera, but aqua socks there. I think that is the words that I would put to it in describing it.
Nice.
Yeah, totally.
Yes.
Black and white inside. I think it's black and white.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh no, there's some color. At least there's some color.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Some
First,
of them.
I guess, yeah. Art Farm let me use their color printer, so.
Yeah, you got that Art Farm money.
Subsequent versions
do
not have that.
Yeah.
No, they didn't give me any money, but they did let me use their scanner in their printer.
In-kind donation.
I love that place. Yes. It was. I missed that place. It was great. Art from Nebraska. Check it out. They do writers and artists residency. So you read the story?
I read the first draft of the story and then part of the most recent draft. A little over half.
Is there anything besides what you already said that you want to say about it at all?
I think another thing, it's interesting. Yeah, for sure. There's, I think, in addition to like the referentiality, like of the kind of signifiers, a lot of it is like 90s and aughts references. And so, and you talked about like wanting to kind of inhabit these spaces of memory. Is there a specific reason like you wanted to juxtapose kind of what's happening right now with that period in time? Is there like a special resonance there? Or is it more about, I don't know, something just specific to those memories? Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah. I guess it would be interesting to kind of go through and like kind of see which memories I included and like what years they're from and like what parts of my life are like more like present in the story. But yeah, I didn't necessarily think like I want to evoke, hey, remember the 90s or whatever, but like it's just the things that were on my mind when I was writing the story, like different like things that I included would kind of tap back into memory spaces. And part of it, Lisa Radon called it like a memoir, which is like that's definitely not what I was trying to do, but I can see why it feels that way because it is in some ways. I just didn't notice it, I guess. But yeah, I think it's just kind of like my like midlife crisis, like revisiting my heyday stuff. I mean, like in the first, like I went to Burning Man myself 2005, 2006, 2008. So like that time period was on my mind, and then a little bit before and a little bit after. But yeah, it's just more like fond memories I had that I will mostly fond memories I had that I wanted to kind of put to words, I guess.
Yeah, that makes sense. I don't know. You said midlife crisis. I don't know how old you are, and you don't have to tell us if you don't want, but
38.
I think that resonates. 38. Okay, yeah, we're really close. I'm 36 and have definitely found myself kind of, I don't know, drifting into those as like memories or like, you know, I think it gets talked a lot in popular culture about 90s as this weird, you know, fixation of like, you know, peak Americana or something of like this stable time before September 11th, before things kind of fell apart. And I've definitely found myself drifting there as well.
Yeah, I think like the 90s, like the cyber, I was like very into the internet in the 90s, like not deep into the internet, but I was definitely like excited about like forums and just, you know, finding song lyrics and stuff like that. Like it was a good time. But it also, but it was also a very interesting time here. And I mean, I feel like, I guess maybe one thing about the 90s that did as a whole, like was important to me was like the eco-terrorist, anti-capitalist movements that were, I think, a little bit more like vibrant here in the Pacific Northwest, especially back then. And like, it almost felt like it could win or like make a difference, like up until like the World Trade protests, World Trade, or like, I think it's the World Trade Organization protest.
Yeah, WTO in Seattle.
Like, I guess, you know, being that part of the story that is important to me is like thinking about this concept of jubilee and the jubilee movement, which is about like erasure of debts and like dissemination of like hoarded wealth, you know, like redistribution. Like it seemed like in the 90s there was like still hope for like radical restructuring of society. Like capitalism hadn't tightened its grip as hard.
What do you think made it feel that way? Is that like looking back through youth rose-colored goggles? Was there something, was it, I mean, thinking about the rise of the internet, I think a lot about the way the information age capitalism has really done that, like tightening of the grip where like all our interactions are monetized and observed and da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
Why do you think it was more hopeful?
I don't know. I think the internet wasn't that way yet at all. Like there was way more benign, like shareware, like start, like I guess my favorite place to hang out on the internet back then was northwesttechno.org, which was a like a raver forum
Okay.
that, and the off-topic discussion section, and like the woman who started that, Groove and Kim, like she hosted it, or like she sponsored the hosting herself. It was like, you know, like $100 a year. Sometimes she would raise donations. It was all ad-free. It was all like volunteer run, and it was just like a place for people who liked raves or feeling connected to like rave worlds, like could just like talk to each other, you know, and like those kind of I mean, Reddit just kind of like took over forum. I feel like, I mean, there's still like cute little like mechanics forums like hidden in different places, but yeah, they're all monetized too now. They all have banner ads and stuff like that, but this place didn't. And it just, there was more places to kind of just really connect with other people back then, at least for me. And I didn't really even look that hard. I just found this one place and hung out there all the time. But you know, and like the Soviet Union didn't fall until like 91 or something like that. So like it was still like, there was still viable alternatives, or at least like the idea of viable alternatives more. I mean, not that that was like a great example of how to organize society, but at least it was something else, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, even thinking about a web where the worst thing is serving a straightforward banner ad seems like so, oh, whatever, it's just a banner ad, versus the other kinds of like, you know, behaviorist experiments that go on in social media now. But yeah, it definitely seemed like a simpler, more beneficent internet.
There was a more beneficent internet for sure. And I mean, maybe that is still existed. It's just like the dominant like idea of the internet is a lot more like, it like drowns out whatever like beautiful corners there are, like kind of, you know, like obstructs people's path more than it used to.
Yeah.
So you have 90s nostalgia? Is that what you say?
Yeah, I guess I do. I mean, I grew up in Salt Lake City, Utah, and, you know, definitely for me, there's, you know, nostalgia for the same period of the web that you're describing, because that was like, I don't know, we didn't have it, or at least I wasn't a part of enough like scenes that would produce zines. So that wasn't, I know for a lot of people that's a touchstone, or music is a touchstone to kind of like point to a bigger world beyond the small town kind of place you grew up. But for me, it was mostly the internet, and playing games and stuff online. So having some nostalgia for that. I've done projects about shopping malls in my art, insofar as, you know, as I guess it's almost like the banner ad thing, right? Like, even though shopping malls are a fake commons, like they're a privatized commons, it felt like at least there's a space that you can go in your real physical community and interact with real physical people and share space, you know. However, you know, certainly there's arguments to be made that the suburbs are like already a fucked up, compromised, you know, racist site anyway, but that there is almost something that feels lost in the loss of shopping malls, which are like super massive decline right now, and how that's turned into, you know, e-commerce. I mean, went into big boxes, and then e-commerce as this total like gutting of physical life, where at least we would have to share space with each other. So that's a facet that I think about, that I think also makes it into Jubilee a lot, just in terms of fashion. You talk a lot about like Forever 21 and Zoomies, and like there's a whole delirious, I hope I'm not spoiling too much, but like a drugged out scene where you're almost like browsing, you know, passed out on the playa or whatever. In your mind.
My shopping, my fondness. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Clackamas Town Center was kind of my big mall
when
I was a kid. And now, I mean, there was like a mall shooting there like a few years ago. And then the like crazy fucking Trump rally used Clackamas Town Center
that's right.
as their like gathering point. Just a couple weeks ago. Yeah, so it's being gutted in many, but both like my my own like special mall has now like been ruined. I mean, that's like where like Tanya Harding used to like practice skating, and I mean, yes, that's where that Zoomies is in Skiffs.
Yeah.
In the story, that's where they are, also. But yeah, I spent a lot of time at the mall for sure, and like I didn't really think about it intellectually, but now that you're talking about it, it's totally a lot of that. Yeah, just like the opportunity to just like run into somebody or like make a new friend or like have an adventure. Like, we have to kind of find different ways to do that now, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like we have this constant, we have connectivity, but it's constant and it's dematerialized through these other interfaces.
Right, and even like Facebook's not like MySpace. Like I made friends on MySpace. You know, right? Are there any parts of the internet right now where you're like making new friends?
Oh, I don't think there are parts that I'm making new friends. I guess there's parts that I could be if I were choosing to, and it comes in more. I'm not super sophisticated about it. I mean, it comes more in the kinds of platforms that are like Discord or like instance based. I don't know what to call like social media platforms. I guess it is sort of, but almost like, independent forum based things where groups of people can sort of add one another to a large group. So it's almost like it's a space, but it's just friends of friends sharing content, rather than like an open principle. Like it's much more closed and insular in these little pocket worlds. So I'm on some servers that it's like, oh, I could engage and be making friends that are probably within a physical proximity if I'd wanted to. But yeah, although I'm an inside cat who's trying to be more of an outside cat, I'm not necessarily, I don't know, socialization has been hard. It's hard.
Yeah. I miss making friends on the internet. Twitter was like that for me for a while. I did well on Twitter in 2010 when I first got on it. I was able to make some good friends. That was probably the last like successful social media like friendship site.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's not that way anymore for me, but this is my own fault in some ways, just because I used to like only follow like people I thought were really cool. Like wanted to be friends with. So now it's more about like it's more of like a news. That's like where I get my news now. But anyway.
Yeah, such an uncertain, I don't know, I always have a tension of like, how should I be using this social media? Or maybe that's why some people have like multiple accounts where it's like, oh, am I using this just for, my brand or whatever as an artist? Am I trying to have genuine interactions with you? Am I just using this as a news source? And I don't know, trying to have genuine interactions feels for the most part so psychically draining that I've kind of walked away. I'm sort of anti-social media for the most part.
I like how you put that. It's yeah, I definitely am habituated to it. I don't. I'm like, why am
That's
I?
What it wants. Yeah, yeah. I feel you as a child of the 90s who grew up playing video games and stuff a ton, and that being like we're saying like a big escape for me and formative in the kinds of art that I make. I'm personally really addictable, just that kind of like flashing lighter gamification that those platforms use totally get me, and I have to be really intentional about my use of those things, especially when it's so much like negative affect and behavior experiments that companies are doing on people.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, I watched The Social Network for the first time a few months ago.
Okay.
Have you ever seen that movie?
I think I did, but I think it's been years. Yeah.
Yeah, it helped me wean myself off Facebook pretty quickly for a good amount of time, but
Yeah.
I just need something. Anyway, whatever. I could complain about billionaires, but do you so you have your copy. Do you want
Yes.
to read me a sentence randomly out of it?
Yes, I will read you a sentence randomly.
Yes,
What feels good? It's going to be this page. And let's see. She offered her jewel to the stranger. It's on DMT setting, she said. What? Said the stranger, leaning their head closer. It's not exactly a sentence, but it's close to a sentence.
Yes.
Two sentence fragments. Yeah, totally.
And it's yes, the sentence within a sentence. Class.
Yeah.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, I love she has that jewel that has all these settings somehow. That's a good
That's when I
catalyst.
was like, what would I want the future to have in it? Like Leatherman jewel with
Yeah. Does Jewel make the DMT pods or does she get them from somewhere?
well, it would be like I guess it would be like a pod with like it'd be like kind of like a like one of those pens with like the 12 different colors on it.
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah. Okay.
So I think it'd probably be off-brand, probably.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, third party OEM DMT.
I mean, that's the best kind, right? I don't know. I've only done it a few times in real life.
I've never done DMT. That one missed me.
It's I think it's interesting, like how much rarer it is. You know, I think it really has like it's an uncommon opportunity. Like I haven't been offered.
I had a friend who made DMT once at a house that I was staying at, and they offered it to me, but I had just done Molly for the first time or second time, and I was like, I don't want to do. I mean, not in a bad. It wasn't no bad experiences, but it was just like I'm not a big drug person at this point in my life, so it was like I'm gonna turn this one down right now. But.
Right? Yeah, I feel it's definitely. Not particularly recreational, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like it's not a social
exactly.
In and of itself. Like
right.
sharing the experience together, like afterwards you might like have some kind of opportunity to connect, but like the time of it is very personal.
That's what I hear. Very immersive.
Yes, quite immersive. It is. My secret is just keep my eyes open. Like people like to close their eyes and like kind of like, get visited by prophetic beings and stuff like that. But I've
machine elves,
yes, I'm like I'm just gonna look around and like see what happens to like the world around me, and it's gone in interesting directions. But I'm like that's enough. I wanna maybe when I'm in my 40s.
There you go. That's there's your escape hatch from the midlife crisis stuff. You just have to do more DMT. I think I'd be in the same boat as you. I think like I tend to like dissociate at the best of times. The last thing I need is to take too much drugs, and I've had those experiences of being totally severed from reality, and usually it's bad. It's bad in there. I don't know about you, but for me, it's bad in there.
Yeah, I like
so
it.
eyes open is better.
Yeah, but my friends have been visited by. I've been visited by beautiful colors and like kind of like Mario World. Made everything look like Mario World, which was plenty.
Depending on the level.
I've been thinking about that for 15 years. It was kind of like it was like Rainbow Road kind of.
Oh wow. Okay.
Not like that bad, not like that. But it was just like it was sunrise, so everything was kind of like orange and like glowy anyway. So it just kind of like added like kind of like a cartoon like shapes.
Okay.
But color palette wise, I don't know if there's any levels that really. I guess the desert levels in Mario 3, kind of, but
okay.
With a different color sky.
That's very evocative.
Yeah. Have you ever been to Burning Man?
I've never been to Burning Man. I think when I heard about Burning Man, I guess this, I haven't fact checked this, so bear with me. When I first heard about Burning Man, I was probably like 9 or 12 or something, and it was covered in a National Geographic magazine. And yeah, and I was like, what the hell is this? And it was like, I was a little kid and I was into like illustration and things like this. And there's like, again, grew up in Utah. So there's like a Utah illustrator called James Christensen who makes these kind of like fanciful things. And it totally reminded me of that, like some of these like costumes and I don't know, like steampunky things or whatever like would be in these illustrations. And so I remember at that point, I was like, whoa, that sounds really cool. But I think maybe especially then, or my mom was like very anti-drug or something, maybe like it had enough of like a veneer of danger about it. And I was, for a long time, I was a really good kid. And so I was like, oh, that seems really cool, but too dangerous. And I'm trying to think, I never pursued it. And I have I don't know, what do I say? I don't know. I guess I'm skeptical of it. I'm skeptical of, like, although I have my own like woo-woo magical beliefs to some extent, I'm really skeptical of other people's or getting like ensnared in it. And so maybe that's why I never have. And then of course now it has like all the baggage of being, you know, extremely white techie, that it's been ruined from whatever it was before, which I can't really speak to. But
yeah, I don't think it ever was that much different than that before. It's just people have started like noticing the fact that that's bad. You know?
Yeah,
like,
there's been a moment of consciousness.
Yes, I mean, like the most annoying part about it to me is just how hypocritical it is. You know, it's like, let's go out and like build this world where everything is free and like we're radical inclusivity and like, first of all, that's never how it's been actually there. You know what I mean? It's been like gesturing towards that in very trivial ways, you know, but like it never lived up to itself, even at the, like at all.
Yeah.
And then second of all, some people that I know of that go there, they're like, okay, like I did my good thing for the year. I went and like gave out my gifts to people and like spent this week rejecting the world. So now like I'm allowed to just go back and be like really bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
that's weird. That's a weird carbon offset to try to buy yourself.
I know. But like, I mean, the art is really pretty, you know, in some ways. And like the setting is very powerful, you know, like it is fun. But and in like magic, like there's a lot of magic. But like you said, for better or for worse. But
yeah,
it's okay that you haven't gone. You haven't. I'm sure you made the right choice.
Yeah, everybody's got to make the right choice for them. You know, I'm sure there's cool things about it. I'm sure people have really amazing experiences.
Yeah. I mean, the art is cool, and like the idea of my friend Annie that I went with, kind of like encouraged me to go with them, like kind of like set it all up and just let me kind of like plug and play or whatever. And like, I mean, I pitched in, but I didn't have to like plan it from zero, you know?
Yeah.
But she always liked to say, if people are like, what's Burning Man like? She's like, 50,000 people go out to the desert and then they burn it. And then they burn it. And so in that way it sounded cool. But yeah, I first read about Burning Man in 17 magazine when I was like 13.
Oh, wow. What did they have to say about it? Do you remember?
It was like a photo essay about like, check out this new cool festy. Like it was like in probably some like summer things to do in the summer in America, like with like Lollapalooza on like one page and then like Burning Man on another page. But I definitely like cut the article out and like folded it into an envelope and kept it for a while. Probably in there's my old dressers behind me. I'm in like our like storage unit garage attic thing, but it might be back there.
Yeah, it's wild how much of a charge magazines would have. Like just like cut out magazine images. It's like, you know, having those all over your wall, but it's just this like shitty paper that because images were scarce at one point, you know.
Yeah, you had to like take whatever like Leonardo DiCaprio like portrait you could. I don't
Absolutely.
know. I like oh my god, I thought Jared Leto was so cute. What was I thinking? Pat Smith.
What show was Jared Leto on? I don't know who
He's
that
on
is.
My So-Called Life. Which is like a coming of age like story about it was like starring Claire Danes.
Okay.
She was in high school and she was kind of like breaking away from her best friend and trying to find herself, and she like dyed her hair, started hanging out with troublemakers.
Look out. Yeah, I never saw that, but I do remember. I vaguely remember.
Her heartthrob, like her main man or whatever. But I thought it was big. I probably identified a little bit with Angela Chase. Girl from My So-Called Life.
The heart wants what it wants.
The heart does. I'm just glad I've moved on past that. Did you have any like people you cut out that you remember?
Oh, only like video game and anime characters. I don't know if I had physical people. What physical people were maybe on my wall? Definitely, I mean, Leonardo DiCaprio definitely made an impression on me because that Romeo and Juliet was like huge in terms of just the style and yeah, I mean, trying to speak angstily to a young whatever I was. It's like it was just such a buffet of like violence and love and neon and, you know, everything in it.
Kind of, and yeah, like it. Yeah, I was. I was held into that movie for sure.
I haven't watched it in a while. I wonder if it would hold up. There's so many movies you cannot go back to. You watch and it's like, oh, this is fucked up.
Yeah, that one. I watched it a couple years, maybe like last year, and I still I saw it differently. You know, of course, but like visually, it still it holds up as like it's an aesthetic. It was very self-assured, and I think it was succeeded.
That's a nice way to put it. Yeah, maybe I'll put it on one night. That feels like something I want to fall asleep to.
Yeah, it was like I definitely would like have movies on while I was like making the physical copies of
cool
Villa or like and like feeding the stuff. The cord is like USB covers. That's
what.
Yeah, they're used to like cover. Like you can buy them to cover like the cord of your like headphones or your like USB charger, so it didn't like fray as easily, I guess.
Oh damn, that's fascinating.
Yeah,
I wonder you could just buy that. Yeah,
it's. I mean,
of course you can just buy that. Why would I say that? That's dumb. You could just buy that.
I know.
No.
Yeah,
it comes from a secret well in the desert. You can't buy it.
But yeah, so like the methodical like making part of this, that I would like have like background movies on. I think I watched like Forrest Gump and
you were doing a tour of the 90s intentionally.
You know, kind of like tie it back, tie the room together a little bit. I don't know. There are certain movies that like really matter a lot to me. And, like understand the world. Or like that just like Forrest Gump is just one of those ones that I just like find myself like that's like when Lieutenant Dan Go to interruption.
That's another one I'll have to watch one time so I can get on a wavelength for you.
Oh
Next
my
time we
God.
talk, be like, what are the idioms? Yeah.
Yes, me and Mimi, like it like came on the TV like right during the moment where, have you seen Forrest Gump? Yes. So
a
like
long time ago.
yeah, so Forrest, the main character, he
Mhm.
like his like counterpart or like parallel throughout the movie is Jenny, like the girl, like his like childhood sweetheart kind of. But so we started watching the movie like right at the moment where Forrest and Jenny meet. So it's and like recorded it, and so that's the one I watch. And so like the story recorded from that moment is much more about Forrest and Jenny at the same like parallel. Like instead of having like Forrest's story, he's like this golden boy that like kind of stumbles his way into all these like historical situations, and then Jenny's like you know, abused girl, like her childhood was very abusive at the hands of her father, and like her life story is very like, if you like, as I've watched it recently and like read her story like in the context of the abuse that she suffered as a child and like never like processed or like was able to heal from, you know, it like became a different movie to me to see it from that way. But anyway, yeah, I watched that. I did, and I'll watch any 90s movie throw in front of me. Not actually, I won't, but the ones that I like from them, I'll watch again.
Sure.
I don't like watching new movies very much. That's my boundary. You just never
What's
know.
the cutoff here? Is there a cutoff?
No, I mean like I'll watch like kids movies. I just don't like. I mean, I just get really invested in movies, I guess, like emotionally. And so like if I'm not sure where they're gonna take me, it's like a really big commitment to like I'll watch a movie if one of my friends is like, you like this, then I'll try it. But I just feel really intimidated by movies.
That's fair. Yeah. I don't like to go to movie theaters. I don't want to sit in I mean, now, never mind now, but in general, but it's just like, I don't want to be around people. I don't want to be seen while I'm trying to immerse in a thing. It feels weird to me.
Yeah. I definitely went to a lot of movies as a youngster. And Mimi likes going to movies, so I'll go with her. We saw Cats. Have you seen
Cats? I haven't seen it. I hear it's uncanny and vaguely horrifying.
Yeah, it's like, I'm very happy that it exists because it's like, it's really not trying to do anything besides what it's doing, which is rare in movies these days. Like, I'm going for it. Like, this is where I'm going. And but yeah, it could be better also.
Okay.
But I never liked Cats, like the musical or whatever. So I was kind of seeing it with fresh eyes, and I was just like, holy moly, what am I looking at?
Yeah.
Like, it's visually, it's definitely in that like Baz Luhrmann, like over the top kind of category.
Is it also Baz Luhrmann?
I don't think it is. No, it
just feels that way.
No, it just has like it's kind of like Moulin Rouge. Like it's probably the guy that the set director probably was like, give me Moulin Rouge. So
there you go.
But enough about cats, unless you want to keep talking about cats.
I mean, I don't think I have anything pressing to say about cats. I can keep talking about cats, but I don't know.
Do you want to talk about, like, one other thing in this story, Jubilee, is quests?
Yeah.
Are you on any quests right now? The main character.
Like when you gave that question, I struggled with it. I'm like, what is the difference between a quest and just work that you're doing or having a practice? Like what are the things that make a quest a quest?
For me or for you?
I mean, yeah, I'm asking like for a collaborative definition of quest. What is questing?
I mean, I think when I think of a quest, it has more of like a specific objective kind of that's like feels far away. So that there's like a lot of steps that you need to take to get to like kind of a fixed, like something in your mind that's fixed.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that there's a lot of like, it also kind of evokes the like sense of movement, you know, like a journey.
Yeah, phases, various like supernatural intercessors, that kind of thing.
Potentially, yeah, like
Yeah. I don't know. I've definitely been on a quest. I don't know if I can specifically outline it. I mean, I used to be really into magical thinking, as I alluded to earlier in this conversation. And partly that was, I think, a result of being an extremely depressed person who was like trapped in what felt like a very, very small place. And so it's kind of like delving into those magical thinking schemes, like superimposed onto physical reality in a way that ultimately had to be medicated. And so I think I've been on a quest, and I think it was partly like ameliorated by moving away from that place, and then later like gender transition stuff was helpful because it's like trying to, I guess I think of a quest as like, I mean, I guess I think a few things about a quest. A quest is hard because to me it's like it feels irreconcilable from conquest in a way. And so it's like, I guess to some extent I transcended the terms of my quest in like just leaving the place that I lived that was small, and then like, you know, killing a version of myself that had to be killed to get to where I am now, which is much happier than where I was then and much more like psychically stable. I think those are some quests. And then ever since then, like magic to me has been, which I'm associating with quests here, has been of like increasing or decreasing importance. Like I've felt it kind of fade, and some other kind of like paradigms or life patterns take over in terms of like, I also think about quests as being like extremely individualistic if they're not, I guess, rooted in conquest, because that's like a collective thing. They can also be a quest, but it's fucked up. But like, I think of it as individualistic. It's like hero's journey kind of stuff where you're trying to like go through this thing for yourself. And I think I'm trying to like, as someone who's raised in a very like individualistic society and but sees the real need for collectivism and collective action and that kind of thing, it's been a process of like pulling down the fader on questing and that kind of thinking and trying to pull up the fader on something else. That could be more helpful for people, maybe. I don't know.
Like what?
Like what would be more helpful for people?
Yeah, what's the fader going up on?
The fader, I don't know. It's interesting because I think I was partly in that investigation when I met you, running a space, trying to help make a scene, you know, and it's maybe overly simplistic because I come from a place where there just weren't scenes. So at that point in time, years ago, when you and I met, it's like, oh, let's make a scene, let's make something for people to just like connect and collaborate. But maybe I'm still partly there. You know, I do like a lot of the projects because they're video games or they're kind of media rich installation-y things. I collaborate with a lot of people, and I tend to, I'm forever searching for the way to say this. Like a lot of the people that I care about and collaborate with are really isolated for a whole host of reasons. And what I want is to be able to counter, I guess, and the isolation that is pretty endemic, I think, to digital experiences, like we were talking about earlier, like wanting to always make physical things around that where people can convene and commune and have like collegiality and like, but also like engage together with labor. Like I think there's a real value in like laboring together and producing something together that you can then see thinking about the way labor is alienated in digital spaces. Something like that. I mean, I'm really rambling now because these are things that are like on my mind as we're talking. They're not vetted, but combining the value of digital ways of working because they're really powerful. You can make really remarkable things, really immersive things, with some physical things for people to have community together.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, maybe it is. I don't know.
I mean, it's beautiful to me.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, it's got you. Yeah, I think it's definitely important to like imprint beautiful things onto the digital world. You know what I mean? Like you said, it's so currently so heavy with the weight of like capitalism and like money and data and stuff. Like whatever we can like print onto those crystals that we love.
Yeah, and even beauty aside, I think, God, there's a couple of things I think, like showing that there's something to be made of the excess. Like, I don't know, there's the popular notion that it's like, oh, technology is neutral in some way, and I don't believe that at all. I believe, like you were talking about with what is it called, this social network or the Facebook or whatever that movie is called. It's like, I really believe that the technologies that are made are completely imprinted with the functions and life experiences of the mostly like white cis dudes that are making these things, and that those are usually like oppressive. And so it's like
designed to hurt people.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's like, but in all of that, there's an excess that can be recouped. There's so much potential in the capital that's being generated. You can do something, I don't know, subversive feels like too fancy a word to try to claim, but to just be like, what are the paradigms and how can we make something different with them? And that's part of why I guess I work in video game stuff, because I'm attracted to immersive experiences. But not in the way that, I mean, games are so often calcified in very specific tropes, around power fantasy, around blah blah blah. I don't need to do a recap of like all the things that video games are that are iffy, but it feels like there's a lot of potential there to tell different stories, to make new immersive experiences that could be, whether or not they're transformative to other people. I think sometimes they are, transformative for the people making them together, hopefully.
Building better worlds.
Yeah, trying to. Sketching them out anyway.
Unity and Blender, or what else do you use?
I use Unity and Blender. Those are the main things. Yeah, and increasingly even less Blender, as I found more. There's like add-ons for Unity to do a lot of what I had been doing in Blender before. But,
that's such a good name for us.
I haven't really thought about that. Yeah.
Peace, love, unity, respect. That was my Candy River mantra. I'll be sitting with that for a while. You give me a lot to think about. Is there anything else you want to talk about? Yeah.
I think I had like a lingering question, and you can say if this isn't something you want to answer. I mean, I was just thinking about, at least in the parts of your story that I've read, they're really like, you have this water that is transformative, it's healing, and this almost feels like, it feels like there's almost like baptism metaphors, and there's part of it that felt like, I don't know, I just had this flash that like, what do I say, like Burning Man, the way you wanted to like live in memories there, and like the character is always like, maybe I'm gonna cross paths with these other people from life. It felt very like afterlife. It felt very like, I don't know, celestial or heavenly. Was there, I'm just curious, were you raised in a Christian like doctrine, or was there like a map to the metaphysics that you had in the piece?
I mean, my mom's family's Christian. My dad was like a pretty atheist person, like kind of like decidedly atheist person, and like his parents, his mom was Christian Protestant something. His dad was Jewish, and so like he grew up in kind of a non-theistic household. But my mom's family had connections to Christianity, and I'd go to church with like my friends and stuff like that as a kid. But yeah, I think like the house I grew up in was non-religious. So I was always very curious about religion and about like systems of relating to the divine and understanding the unknown. Christianity, growing up in the United States in the 80s and 90s was the pretty fucking dominant, like available, like system of symbology that like explained that. So like, I think it's something I'm familiar with, but not deeply. And and I think that, it's like, for me, the symbology of the water is just more about water on Earth. I think water's really...
We need that stuff. Yeah.
It's just like very like beautiful and kind of like the way that it, like its chemical structure like fluctuates constantly. But yeah, there's definitely... I guess it's a little Sheilaistic in terms of its, like, Sheilaism is like a woman in like some social science paper when she was asked about like her religion, and she was like, I just do what feels right to me. So I think my religion is kind of Sheila. But in the story, the significance of the water, like I didn't like deliberately like want to tell a story about baptism, but like I definitely saw how it related. You know what I mean? It could be read in that way. So yeah, I don't know. Rivers are pretty cool in my mind. Like, definitely, just the way they make their way to the ocean, you know.
Yeah.
Heraclitus says you can't step in the same river twice. I think about that a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, and that really resonates with me. Like you were talking about kind of having Christianity around you. I mean, like growing up in Utah, I wasn't raised Mormon, but it's like so kind of in your face. And I was always really aware. I wasn't raised, my grandmother was Catholic, but my mom really wasn't. She'd been cured of that by going to like Catholic school. And so I was raised without religion, but then always, I think that's kind of how some of the magical thinking came on later in life, was like, oh, there's this whole spiritual dimension that I feel like I need that is maybe in a broader way ultimately related to community, because that's part of like what you get out of going to church or whatever, right? But yeah, and so wanting to like fill that in like a similar way that you're describing, this like ad hoc, like magical spiritual mechanisms that feel good intuitively, because you're just trying to like get this nutrient that you've been deprived of.
You say it so much better than
I don't know.
At least that seems to explain a lot of I feel like I was probably pretty similar, in a similar place. I tried to like read all the sacred texts in the world. So it's like, maybe I'll see something they have in common that we can.
Yeah, I had this whole Gnostic trip for a while of like accumulating spiritual knowledge. So that makes sense.
And here we are. Wealths of knowledge. What else, Tabby? Is there anything else you want to talk about?
I don't know. That feels like a good place to leave it, maybe. Okay. Unless you have a last like pressing question. But I really appreciate you sharing time and sharing your work with me and the world.
You look really nice in your lighting, and it's been fun to see you.
My monitor is like blowing everything out. I'm super bright. It's my angelic glow.
It's very appealing. I'm like, I need better lighting.
I like looking at the stuff in the background. It's very intriguing. It's like
Yeah,
layers
there's
on
all
layers
kinds
on
of,
layers.
yeah, this is like some my
Ooh.
brother's old paintings, and
Ah,
this is where like my brothers and my dad make music, and then
gotcha.
there's some like old like this is where like all my stuff from high school, like whatever's left of it, still lives up here. So
Yeah.
yeah, lots here. The old attic. But I'm glad the connection held up, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.
Yeah.
Whatever
Let's
from the fashion
be in the real
connection.
world again sometime.
Yeah,
You.
you know, someday. Till then, we'll always have StreamYard.
Yay.
Okay.
Love you,
Bye.
Victoria.
Love
Bye
you so
bye.
much. Bye.
Take care.